What is going on, everyone? Platinum Beast coming at you with yet another video. Today we are going to be talking about how electricity, what does that have to do with platinum? Electricity is not as clean as you might think. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, everyone. So electric cars are a thing of the future. It's inevitable. It's unstoppable. Regardless of government regulations, it's just going to happen. People want to fill up their car for less. They want to save money on gas. They're going to go electric. It's going to happen. It's an inevitable future, and it's going to put a downplay on platinum. But electricity itself is not as clean as you think. A lot of electricity is created by fossil fuels. And the thing about electricity is it requires a different fuel source to be used to create it. Now, there are natural sources such as water, wind, and sun or solar, but those have proven so far to not be nearly as effective as actual fuel sources such as coal and fossil fuels. And with coal and fossil fuels comes filtration. The government regulates companies that create electricity or do anything using fossil fuels. How they regulate them is they determine that they need to be filtering their emissions that are given off when using fossil fuels. Now, a lot of electricity is used or created by using natural gas. Natural gas produces a lot less emissions than, say, crude oil or kerosene or gasoline or coal or what have you. But it still produces emissions, and it still requires complex engines and mechanics and things like that. So that is where platinum can hold strong, is the fuel sources and the factories and the power plants that are going to need to be created to produce enough electricity to power everyone's car and even homes to a certain extent will need platinum. So I wanted to make this video talking about electricity and it not being as clean as you might think. And I'm going to show a couple of articles, and I'm going to go over to the screen cam and show you those articles regarding, one, how we create electricity, what's used to create electricity, percentages, things like that. And number two, what is used to create the electric cars, because that's another thing, is to manufacture the batteries and things like that in these electric cars puts off a lot of emissions. Now, a lot of people talk about how the lifetime of a vehicle will put out more emissions than the emissions put out to create the electric cars and the batteries and things like that. But I'm going to show you a couple articles. So we're going to go over the screen cam, and I'll see y'all over there. Okay, everyone, so I've got my two articles pulled up here, and the first one we're going to look at is from Business Insider that states that electric cars may be the future, but they're still critically flawed in a key area. And so let's see what this article has to say. I will also be linking these articles down below for you all to look at for yourselves if you care to. But basically, this article starts out by saying studies have shown that in U.S., Europe, and China, producing an electric vehicle creates more greenhouse gas emissions than producing an equivalent gas-powered vehicle. The biggest reason for that disparity is electric vehicle's battery, which can account for about a quarter of its weight. Electric vehicle batteries are bigger than those used in gas-powered cars and feature a different kind of chemistry. While vehicles that run on gas tend to use lead-acid batteries, electric vehicles use lithium-ion batteries, like those found in cell phones and laptops. Another thing, cell phones and laptops, those things are going off the shelves as well, and they use the batteries, and to create the batteries, they create emissions. The CO2 emissions from making a battery are higher than what you save from not making the engine and transmission. So in electric cars, there's no engine per se and transmission, or it's not the same as a gas-powered engine and transmission at the very least. And down lower, it talks a lot about how even though basically the battery requires giving off more emissions than your typical car, usually about 6 to 18 months of driving, and the battery-powered car already benefits the environment even more. But I wanted to talk about this key point because the batteries that are required in these electric cars put off, to create them, it puts off a lot more emissions into the environment, and that is going to be a thing that they are going to have to keep under control if they plan to keep on creating these electric vehicles. So platinum will come into use at that time. I also wanted to look at this article from eia.gov/energy, and basically what this shows is where we get our electricity from. So we've got petroleum, which is the highest amount, and then we go lower and we have renewable energy. So renewable energy is second in line and as far as where we get our electricity from. And then we also have nuclear power, which is one of the cleanest energy sources on Earth, other than sun, solar, and wind, but those are there are so many variables that go into play with those, whereas nuclear we can just use as much as we want. Although it is the cleanest, it is also very risk-oriented, so to speak, if proper measures are not taken place. We have not figured out how to foolproof nuclear. Although it is very safe and we have come a long way from the old days, there is still risk involved, and there is still many things we need to learn about nuclear. Natural gas also accounts for a lot of electricity, as we can see here. And then we still have coal burning plants that create electricity, and we know that coal is the dirtiest form of energy and fuel. So we know that that is going to give off a lot of emissions, but obviously coal is on the decline, and it will continue to decline until it no longer exists. Unfortunately, no matter who wins the election, the industries are going to change. And so, but I wanted to show this article because, as you can see, a lot of these energy sources that create electricity are sources of fuel that give off emissions, and platinum will continue to need to be used in order to maintain a clean and healthy environment. Regardless of where you stand on the standpoint of the environment, it is important to protect the environment as much as possible. I am not a fan of overregulation, but I am a fan of doing our part as best we can within reason. So, yeah, guys, I just kind of wanted to show these two articles real quick, the one from Business Insider and the one from the government website that shows us where we get our electricity from and what types of fuels are used to fuel the power plants across America. I would assume that in foreign nations, I know I have some foreign viewers, the charts are probably somewhat similar. They may differ a little bit depending on the regulations in your local country. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little video on me talking about why electricity is not quite as clean as you might think it is. And so, with all that being said, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you to all my loyal followers, and I hope to see you in the future videos.